I had a very down-to-earth father, a very strong man, a very hard-working man, but he'd always say to me, men and women are not equal. He said we could never do or bring to the world what women bring to the world. They deserve our respect. And you know, it's about showing them respect in every possible way. The other day I had a young Afghani girl who I think will be a great leader in the future come to my room and spent the day with me. And because I am who I am and I've been brought up as I've been brought up, I opened car doors for her and let her through doors before me. And after a while we had to have a conversation about that because she'd never seen that, had never had that treatment.
Hey everyone, welcome to the final episode of Season 1 for the Justice Matters podcast. I cannot believe that we've made it. In fact, I can. I've had such a fantastic time interviewing some incredible guests, and quite fittingly, our final guest for Season 1 is the Mayor of Toowoomba, Paul Antonio. Now, Paul has been an incredible supporter for You Belong from the very beginning. So it's really special to have him on. But for 30 years, he has served in local government. He's been the Mayor of Toowoomba for 12 years. He has just been re-elected to his third term. He has an incredible history of leading Toowoomba in becoming a refugee welcome city. He stood as an ambassador against gendered violence for White Ribbon and led that community and really making Toowoomba not only a peaceful city for families, but also a community that is inclusive and welcoming of refugees and people from all walks and backgrounds. And we get into that in the podcast. We get a little personal as well. We step behind the scenes a little bit in Paul's life, his personal life. I just had a wonderful time sitting down with him in City Hall yesterday and just chatting with him. Such a great down-to-earth human being, an incredible leader. But that wraps things up for Season 1 for Justice Matters, and I'm excited about what Season 2 holds. Guys, it's going to be a fresh turn for Justice Matters, and I'll be sharing a little bit about what that'll look like in the coming weeks. There's also some exciting news with You Belong. We're actually going to launch a brand new podcast featuring refugee stories. That's going to be really special too. So some exciting things coming up early in the year. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but I'll be putting up content quite regularly, some bonus episodes that I've enjoyed recording just for you. They'll be going up fairly regularly, so make sure you check your feeds, make sure you jump on YouTube for those videos. I can't wait to share those with you. Enjoy yourselves over the Christmas break too, guys. We're going to have a Thanksgiving celebration in my house because my lovely American wife loves to keep up those traditions. We've got friends and family. So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, whether you're spending some time with your family, whether your kids are breaking from school, guys, just know that I've just appreciated you journeying with us in this first season, and I really look forward to walking with you again in Season 2 and hopefully many more. Got some great guests lined up already. Maybe bringing back some guests from Season 1 as well. But friends, thanks so much for being a part of this journey. I really appreciate you. Right now, though, we have the Mayor of Toowoomba, Paul Antonio. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being a part of the Justice Matters podcast.
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, this is the last of my episodes that I have. The 20th of Season 1. And I'm really just been sitting down talking with people from all over the world that have been doing incredible work, representing the needs of the disadvantaged in their communities and wherever they're working. And I'm thrilled that you get to be the final guest on my show. And these are people that I feel like I have a connection, a friendship with. And so I really appreciate you being the final guest on this season.
It's an honour, and welcome to Toowoomba, a very compassionate community.
Yeah, so, and I first of all want to congratulate you on is it your third, what would you call it, your third
term as mayor. I had been mayor elsewhere before the amalgamation for 2 terms, so I'm actually in my 5th term as a mayor. But that's good. It's great to serve a community. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and 30 plus years of work in local government. And what I really want to ask you off the rank is, what made you get in politics in the first place?
Well, I was quite a young person. I was just in my very early 30s. I decided I wanted to do something for my community, which was the community of Millmerran. And of course, after some 18 years there, I became the mayor.
Wow.
And I was mayor for 8 years, and then now I'm down here. When they amalgamated everything, of course, which wasn't the smartest thing that the BD government ever did, but that's where we are, and we have no option.
Now, what is kind of another kind of curiosity I have with, a lot of people that enter into politics, whether it be local government, is they might have this tendency to maybe use that as a stepping stone to try and gain higher levels of government. What I've admired about you is your commitment to this community, and what has made you kind of really want to focus on really kind of this community for so long?
Well, I think this is a great community for a start, and it was all accidental. I believe very strongly in my life that there's been a hand on my shoulder guiding me through life, and this all happened for a reason. I well recall the very first day I spoke to my late dad, who was a very, very hard-working farmer, who, that was his life. That's what he did. And I walked across, and I could take you to the exact spot where we went, and I just said to my dad, I'm going to stand for the local council. I can't repeat exactly what his words were. He was an Aussie bushman, but they were not encouraging. And, I guess I've always thought about that some nights when you get home at 11 o'clock. You see, public life is not easy, and particularly if you're prepared to take a stand on issues. And there's been times when people have made threats. There's been times when I've needed security. There's been all those sort of things have happened to me during this period. But when you look around you and see things that you've done, things that your organisation has achieved for a community, and see the legacies that you've left, 12 years ago, we didn't have an airport in Toowoomba. 12 years ago, there was still a dream that was the bypass. Both those things have happened. When I talk about an airport, we do have one of our own airports, small one, but we are now connected to half the world's population within 12 hours, and that's opportunity for this area. So, and look, there are so many things that we've done. We've recovered from floods. We've done a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, speaking of airports, it was just a few months ago before the restrictions of COVID set in. In fact, right before, things like international flights were closed down, that I remember going to the Toowoomba airport to welcome some families that had found refuge here in Australia. Toowoomba was they're going to be their new home. They'd come from Iraq and some from Syria, and they were getting off the plane and into the bus to make their new home here in Toowoomba. And it was just I would say there's one of the things I'd love to talk with you about is some of the significant achievements that you've been a part of in Toowoomba being a welcoming city, a city of refuge, a city of welcome, not for just the last few years, but for decades now. Can you speak into what that means for you?
Well, personally, I've seen Toowoomba as a very diverse community always, and then if we want to see diversity, we've only got to look in the mirror, many of us, and I've got 5 different nationalities in my makeup. Many of those people who came here in probably difficult circumstances. On my mother's side, a young couple came to Australia and ultimately Toowoomba because they were unable to marry in Germany. The husband was from a poor family, she was from a rich family. It was absolutely forbidden. So they chose love. They chose to be together. They chose to leave Germany and end up here in Australia. There are so many stories like that, and I think the people who are coming here now are absolutely no different to that.
Yeah.
They're coming here to a land of opportunity where you can make a brand new start. And in terms of Toowoomba being a compassionate place, yes, it is. It's a wonderful place. And it was in 2013 when we decided we'd confirm that by making Toowoomba a refugee welcome zone. But there are other things we do. We have an amazing Harmony Day here in Toowoomba.
Yep.
A day when all the different... It's a day when all the different people, different groupings of people come together and walk the streets. And we just let them know that we are one. But then there's a Languages and Cultural Festival. I don't know if you've been to that, but it would be the good subject of a very good story, because each year we celebrate, a particular nationality, and each year we have dozens we have hundreds, up to 17,000 people turn up to see these 100-odd different displays from the different nationalities who are represented here in Toowoomba, who are proud of their heritage. I tell people who come here to be proud of your heritage, but make absolutely sure you embrace and understand the Australian culture, because it's a beauty.
Yeah. Most people, when they hear of Toowoomba, they think of things like the Festival of Flowers, which is a remarkable event too in the springtime. And I think it's wonderful to know that Toowoomba's leading the way in so many ways, as it is being known now as a place where people really want to come, especially refugees are clamouring really to come up here when they do move here. So
there are some interesting stories. We're getting a lot of Yazidi people here now.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful, gentle people. Now, one year we received 900 of them, 950 in fact, but 150 Yazidis from elsewhere in Australia, and particularly from the central coast of New South Wales, relocated to Toowoomba specifically because it was such a great place and such a good reputation. I'm not afraid of that. I think that's a great thing, and we're working hard to get these people through their language barrier. Yeah. We're working hard to get them jobs, and goodness me, I've met some beautiful people.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, there's obvious challenges, and one of the stark challenges we realise when you get to know their history, the trauma that goes through generations, as we celebrate on August 3rd, their memories of the genocide that took place. Those challenges, though, they're difficult, and what do you think it's going to take for Toowoomba and for communities at large to be able to embrace people that have gone through that level of, intense suffering and pain? What are some of the ways you think?
Well, I think those people who've gone through intense suffering and pain will carry that. And by and large, they carry it for a couple of generations at least. But we've got to just be who we are. I was walking through Queen's Park, our beautiful park, one day, and I ran into a group of Yazidi people. And I tried to get a conversation going, and finally, through somebody who had a bit of English, I spoke to these people and I said, "Are you happy here?" And, "Oh yes, we're happy here. This is just heaven. This is just beautiful. This is just wonderful. There are no bombs, there are no guns, there's nothing like that around these places." And that's what they've come to enjoy. That's what we've fought for in this country. Let us never ever forget those who fought for our freedoms. And of course, if you want to look at that particular area, you'll find that's where Toowoomba stood out. We had some tremendous efforts from this area, like all of Australia. But it was our own 25th Battalion from Toowoomba who won the first land battle against the enemy in World War II in New Guinea. Our boys. We lost a lot. We lost over 100. But in saying that, there's a battle, amazing battle. It was significant, called the Battle of Millmerran. And I respect greatly those people who fought for our freedoms, because we enjoy them and we should be so thankful.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, not everybody, some at this time and day, there can be different people that have differing opinions and views. Someone like yourself who grew up and instilled such a compassion in the way that you've led and welcomed. But for those that, for them, it's still a controversial issue. whether it be immigration or how do we respond. What do you think it is that I don't want to say made you, but what do you think that you've kind of leaned into that has made you lead in that more compassionate, open, welcoming route, rather than maybe, hey, the more questioning, hey, we don't know if we should help in this way?
I think it's my upbringing and my beliefs. I had two amazing parents who I come from a very mixed marriage of a Catholic versus a Lutheran.
Okay.
And they were two clearly either sides of the Christian faith, but both professing that beautiful Christian faith that we all hold so dear. They came together in the middle. They came together as Anglicans because we live in the country, a lovely Anglican priest floating around. He'll do. We'll all become Anglicans. We all grew up as Anglicans, and of course, in that era, you didn't mix with a Catholic if you're an Anglican, and if you didn't mix with a Presbyterian if you're an Anglican, all that's crazy stuff. The beautiful thing about now, the thing that's taught me a lesson, that experience in my life where I understood bigotry, but to see people working together. Yeah. And, I go to many churches. I'm an Anglican. I go to my church Sunday, but this coming Sunday I'm going to the Baptist church to see a new man become their new leader in their church. And I get an enjoyment out of that. But family is a big thing, and I've got some beautiful grandchildren and a wonderful son, and it's all lovely for me.
Yeah. Speaking of family, there's a practice that we've started to instill it on a weekly basis in my home, and we call it family council. You'll be pleased to know I got this from this lovely African lady who grew up. Her dad was into politics, and he said, we're going to have council every week. And he taught them that politics is in everyday life. It's not just relegated for the people in Canberra or in the City Hall. And so what we've done, I kind of borrowed this idea from her, is we all sit down and we all get a chance to voice what issues we have in our home. And it could be dad. There's two rules. You can say anything you want at this table. You could criticize mom, you could criticize dad, you could criticize your brothers and sisters, you could talk about anything. But the second rule is you can't, none of anything that's shared here doesn't go outside of this council as well. So it gives them that safety to share. And so we talk, and usually it's always Lily, the youngest daughter. She's always coming into my room and messing it up, and then I have to clean it up. And usually it's this problem with the other kid that they want to talk about. And I'm trying to help them to realize, look, there's a lot of things we could talk about where we go on vacation or holidays, or what decisions we get to do as a family. But it gives them an opportunity, I guess, to have a voice, and to realize that if you don't have a voice, if you choose not to come, then you can't either complain too about the decisions that are being made. Anyways, I say all that to say, when it comes to, the importance of representing everybody in your community, because that's a challenge, right? You have small business owners, you have large corporations and businesses, you have people from all walks and backgrounds in life, and you're representing them. But at the same time, there's this commitment to ensure that the weak and the poor and the vulnerable in our community don't fall through the cracks. And as I'm really passionate, obviously, about coming alongside the vulnerable and the support, that challenge of how do you balance? As a mayor, I'm amazed at what people in your position have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. How do you balance representing everybody and then helping people to not bicker with each other and complain about each other, but to look towards a positive future that they can create? How do you do that? What's your key?
Well, some of the early stuff you spoke early in that conversation about your family council, have a look at the yarning circles the Indigenous people have had for thousands of years, where there is a yarning circle. Everyone sits there and they're equal, regardless of their rank in society. And they had rank in society too. But everybody has their say, and it's very much in keeping with what you have just said. Look, there are times when I walk away from stuff, people annoy me too much. I get a lot of people coming here trying to take advantage of me. I call them tyre kickers. They've got a big deal, but if you put the money in, Paul, your council puts some money in, this will happen to Toowoomba. It'll be so good for everybody, but it's all about themselves. You've got to watch that. But I the last 3 weekends I hope nothing like it happens to me this weekend, but I've dealt with sad issues around females. There was a lady didn't have a house and she was thinking of suiciding. Another lady was being harassed by somebody, and there was another person as well. And I seem to have a fair bit of compassion for that. I very strongly was a White Ribbon ambassador, very strongly involved in the Red Bench thing, which is about domestic violence. And I've been quite excited by this concept called Stand By You, which is technology now that people just wear the moment there's an issue in their life. They press a button on their technology or something happens, and their friends, not the police, but their friends come into it. I've heard some amazing stories around that about, some of the young men who've been badly impacted by having served this country in Afghanistan or wherever. They don't come back the same person. But as they start to get a bit angry, people ring them. Their dad rings them. Their brother rings them. Their good mates ring them because their partner has this particular Stand By You technology that they use. And I've just been in a conversation about how we can help because that keeps the police out of the equation, but it diffuses difficult situations. They're the sort of things I love. I love helping people. I always have loved helping people, and I think when you give, you get a lot more back than taking. You get a lot more back if you can give to help someone. I heard the most beautiful story the other day. There are awards that we hand out every year called the Merrill Achievement Awards. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And a young man got leukemia. He fought his way through that and he's now in remission. Another young student at his school got leukemia. That young man who got the leukemia in the first place is standing by that young man who's just got it, helping him go through that journey that in life that he's going through. They're the sort of things that really float my boat. I hate violence, particularly against women. I had a very down-to-earth father, a very strong man, a very hard-working man, but he'd always say to me, men and women are not equal. He said we could never do or bring to the world what women bring to the world. They deserve our respect. And it's about showing them respect in every possible way. The other day I had a young Afghani girl who I think will be a great leader in the future come to my room and spent the day with me. And because I am who I am and I've been brought up as I've been brought up, I opened car doors for her and let her through doors before me. And after a while we had to have a conversation about that because she'd never seen that, had never had that treatment.
Wow.
And, we have a great culture here in Australia. There are some sad things about it, but we need to concentrate on the good bits and build that. And that's probably part of what the Christian church can do. It's part of what good people who care for their community can do to demonstrate that.
Yes.
You see some of our recently arrived refugees who do not get this. You see dad walking in front having a smoke, mum coming along with the children and all the parcels behind. That I feel like going over and giving someone a hand or a kick in the backside or something like that in a circumstance like that. But, I have tremendous respect for the women in my life.
I was, recently actually interviewed the now new director of the Australian Director for White Ribbon, and we got to talk a lot about some of those issues around that, and it's been wonderful to see how Toowoomba has led the way. I think the largest White Ribbon event in Australia, and these issues of creating a community where families are safe, where everybody is welcome.
I think so, and I feel sad for anyone who lives through violence, but it's out there. It continues to grow. I had the pleasure of attending a function in the Redlands region. The mayor down there is a lady called Karen Williams, who is a beautiful person. I went. The mayor of Lockyer was there as well with me, and we had a lovely time. And the people who spoke were the parents of that beautiful lady that was burnt in the car with 3 children.
Mm.
And, talk about giving back.
Oof.
Those 2 people, that mother and that father who lost their daughter, lost 2 granddaughters and lost a grandson, are now devoting their life to getting the story out there about all this sort of thing. The difficulty there is with men who control women's lives and won't let them wear certain colour clothes and all this crazy stuff. There needs to be a pathway for those people of safety. And, of course, it isn't really there because this fellow found them and he did that horrible thing and then he took his own life, of course. I think the only thing that I'd suggest, he got the order wrong. Tragic, tragic, tragic.
You know, I've heard it said that sometimes people aren't willing to take action on injustices until it affects them personally, until someone in their life was impacted by it, and then you're forced to actually be aware of the pain and the suffering. But I would argue it doesn't have to be that way.
But then again, of course, if you do some of those things, and I've been caught, trying to protect females particularly from harassment, that kind of thing. And they come to me, they talk to me about it, they're sad, they cry. And that affects me. That's had a big effect on me, but then they will not do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because women are in a difficult position here.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that because it affects their employment, it affects a whole range of things. There are some unpleasant men in this world, and I hope they can be exposed one day in a very special way.
Well, I appreciate all that you've done as an ambassador and as someone that is leading this community, that you're leading in that role. As we finish things up, I'd love to just ask you, what would you tell yourself when you were 30 years old, just getting into politics? What would you want to tell yourself then that you now know?
It's not much fun. I think the thing that keeps me going is legacy projects. And we talked about airports and bypasses and a big rail line, all those sort of dreams you have. I don't know what I would have said to myself. Probably something similar to what Dad said. I wasn't staying there for a long time. I was getting in there to do something for my community because I thought I could. Yeah. We were going through a very successful period with our farming operation. I was reasonably well educated. As far as the community was concerned, I've stood for 12 elections, and there are moments when I wonder why, but then there are moments when I'm so thankful that I've been guided in this direction because I'm satisfied for what I've given to my community. I'm very satisfied there are tough times. I lost my wife during this last period, and that's tough. And that was made on your own. That was a 7-year journey that wasn't easy, but we got through it, and I helped her right till the very end. Wow. As well as was mayor during that period. So, I think there's a reason for doing what you do, and I think there's a hand on every person's shoulder that wants to have a think about it, and you are guided through life. And maybe, they say you make your own luck and all that sort of thing, but I think there's a divine intervention in everybody's life. I think we're guided by the principles that we have. I wouldn't change anything. Yeah.
Paul, you mentioned your grandkids and you mentioned how important legacy is to you. I'd love to know how your grandkids would describe you.
Well, that's very interesting because I interact a lot with 2 granddaughters who are living on the property. Yeah. And I've got to tell you a good story about my granddaughters.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
we bought a brand new tractor and for the farming operation. It was tractor number 8, so it wasn't a big deal to Dad, but my son obviously must have must have said something. Yeah. And I went out there one day soon after Judith passed, and my son and I were talking, and then these 2 beautiful little girls who were 10 and 7 wanted to talk to Poppy. So finally they got Poppy, and with furrowed brow, they said, "Poppy, we have a new tractor." I said, "Oh, yeah?" I wasn't surprised at that at all. I said, "Okay." They said, "Poppy, our new tractor has satellite tracking, it has automated steering, and it's computer controlled. We think it's best that you don't drive it. And it's something that I'll take to my grave. But no, these beautiful little girls, they show me unlimited love.
Yeah.
And they're very special. I think they're a little bit embarrassed, actually. There was another incident where the younger one, Scarlett, who's a very strong little lady, she was born prematurely and 12 weeks preemie, and we were worried that she wouldn't make it. But my goodness me, the man that marries Scarlett will have a
work cut out for
work cut out. But she came down to watch a ceremony here one day where I wore my gown and my chains. Never said a word, but it's about an hour and a quarter to drive home to our real home. And on the way home, she finally, about an hour out of town here, she said to her daddy, "Daddy, my Poppy, how long's he been wearing a dress and beads for?" These things you'll never forget. They're the precious bits of life. And seeing these little people grow up and in a beautiful family with just the right amount of discipline, living in the country, and they know the facts of life at a very early age, those young people. The younger one will one day, no doubt, be managing our farming operations. She is a cracker. The other one probably wants to be something like a doctor, or it'll be something to do with young children. And she's very, very good at that. And she's in grade 10 next year. And these little girls come down to boarding school, and because we don't have those facilities close hand.
Yeah.
But they're going to be wonderful citizens. I'm very proud of them. I think they're picking up a bit. I think the young one, she's got potential to be a mayor.
Yeah. Oh,
both of them, actually. But anyhow, the young one will work her way through.
It's in the blood.
Well, it isn't really, in that my dad was never interested in that. I spoke about the German fellow that came out and couldn't marry in Germany. He was on the Gary board or something like that many, many years ago at a farm where the current Toowoomba Council airport is. And he was a fairly prominent member of society, but, being a migrant, he probably wouldn't have had a good command of English. But, when I get up of a morning and have a look in the mirror, that's the important time. You think, got to work out whether you believe in yourself, whether you believe you're okay, and just get on with it.
So thinking about getting up and going forward, where does your hope lie for the future? You're obviously, do you have another round in you after this?
No,
You're obviously
I've made it very, very clear to everybody that this is my last term.
Yep.
I intend to go back to my property and probably do a fair bit of travelling. I've got a beautiful home out there in the country, and I'm very blessed to have a couple of ladies who have made it their business to go to my house a couple of times a week and just check the garden, and I put in some watering systems. It's beautiful out there. It's so peaceful. But I intend to do a fair bit of travelling, but I'll also want to be involved in the farming operation and work with my son, and I won't be telling him what to do, but I will be
trusted advisor.
No, well, he's I'll probably start off as a first year jackaroo. No recognition of prior learning, but no, I love it out there, and we've it's so peaceful, and that's where I'm going. I'll keep my Toowoomba house, and I would dearly like to have a spot near the sea where I can go from time to time. I might do that too. We'll see how it works out. I don't mind northern New South Wales. Beautiful spots there. But do a bit of travelling and just enjoy my life and just walk away from things. It'll be hard after the effort that I put in. But I think there are young people coming through this council now who will make outstanding leaders. And I look forward to sitting back and writing the odd letter to the paper about what they're doing wrong. Yeah,
there you go. Why does justice matter to you?
Why does justice
matter to you?
What, doing things right?
Yeah, just justice in general, that there be justice.
I think it's terribly, terribly important that everybody be on a level playing field. And I see from time to time people who aren't. I've been singled out because of a number of reasons, I guess, for criticism by politics. I've been dragged through the mire a few times. And depending on where you go, it depends on how it works out. But I'm I didn't think that there were times when I've seen justice in my life, but you've just got to be bigger than that. You've just got to keep going. But I think it's important that justice is justice. That's what it's meant to be. People have a fair go. And sometimes you see they don't. It cuts both ways. There are people out there who, really they deserve rougher treatment than they're getting. Some people who are constantly stealing cars and all that sort of thing, there must be a better way forward for them. Surely, if they get let out, they pinch a car and crash it and burn it and goodness knows what, 2 weeks later they do it again. I'm sorry. I don't like that. I come from the private sector. I'm not afraid of that. I'm very proud of it, in fact, because the private sector, when you look at the investment in this community, you look at the jobs that are created, when you look at the good that's done, okay, the governments do a bit, but they generate a fair bit of more effort coming out of the private sector.
You mentioned that just a couple of months ago, my car was stolen by a young teenager, and I actually ended up hearing them take it out of my driveway, and I who's taking my car? Got in my other car, and sure enough, a few hours later, after getting in touch with the police, it was found, and they caught the young offender, a 14-year-old. I had the opportunity to sit down in a little conference like this with the police present. Unfortunately, this 14-year-old had no one in his life. Parents were in Melbourne. He'd been sent up to live with his grandma, and that didn't go so well. And so he essentially was living on the streets. And I had the opportunity to sit down with him and talk with him through this process now they've got called the Restorative Justice process. And sure enough, it helped me realise this is systemic. This is it's this. There is something beyond just this child, and like you said, there's got to be a better way forward. I was able to let him know the impact it had on me. He was able to confess and explain what had happened. Unfortunately, I'd wish we'd made an agreement at that day to I would meet him and try and mentor him, and then we'd do some community service together. I would take him to the local community centre and we'd work on these things, but we lost contact with him and we don't know where he is. And it kind of was like, we were so close to hopefully being able to do a quarter turn in this kid's life. And you can't, like you said, you can't control the decisions people make, but we can try our best to get to the root cause and how can we prevent this, whether it be domestic violence.
In life, when I take a helicopter view of this community, the biggest problem I see is tied up in parenting and the example that's set by some people. There is a belief in Australia too that I think there's a belief in entitlement. You don't have to work if you don't want to because they'll look after you. I think every young person at the age of about 17 or 18 should give a year to their country. Whether it be working in emergency services, whether it be in the part-time army, whether it be just in the Green Army, whatever it might be. But we are so blessed, lucky, whatever way you want to have it, to live in this country. And don't we owe something to this country, each and every one of us? I'm sure we do.
Yeah, we do. Well, thank you, Paul.
No, thanks.
I feel like we could keep going, but I know your time is precious, and you've given me this time, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you today.
No, anytime. I'm just an average guy, I'm not a leader because I come from the Chardonnay set, that's for sure. I come from a very common, hard-working background. And I'm so thankful to God that I came from that background because that's given me tremendous strength. I am who I am. And that's the advice I can give to everybody.
Yes.
Be who you are. Don't pretend to be somebody else.
Fantastic advice. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.